Hi everybody, this week on ANN News Kids, I'm going to be talking about the US and Chinese leaders talking about Taiwan, the International Space Station, and Russia, two invasive species that cause $16 billion in damage, and Russia stopping gas exports to Germany and other countries. The country of the week is Vanuatu, and the extra fun segment is all about fun facts about coffee. In the Mandarin segments, you're going to be learning a few wild animals in Chinese, and we are interviewing Mr. Abhishek Talwar, who is an amazing person and is an author. He writes an amazing book on Biplop the Bumblebee and teaches how to take care of nature through his books. I really hope you enjoy. US President and the Chinese President, President Joe Biden and President Xi Jinping, had a long conversation this week discussing the Taiwan tensions. Taiwan has been an independent country for some time, but now China has been trying to get it back and has been sending missiles and drones there. US has been trying to defend Taiwan, and President Joe Biden even said that he will use force if necessary to defend Taiwan. The US has been selling weapons to Taiwan because Taiwan has way fewer arms and resources than China. Ms. Nancy Pelosi, a US House of Representatives Speaker, might go to Taiwan. She is next in line for presidency after Vice President Kamala Harris, and she will be the highest ranked politician from US to visit Taiwan since 1997 if she goes. Russia has decided to end its decade-long partnership with NASA and leave the International Space Station. Russia has confirmed that it will leave the International Space Station after 2024. The International Space Station, or ISS, is a partnership between Russia, US, Japan, Canada, and the European Space Agency. Since December, Russia was thinking of this because in December there was a deal signed to extend the International Space Station deal from 2024 to 2030, but Russia did not sign it. Russia is NASA's #1 space partner, but now they may be thinking of making and building their own space station, just like China did. An invasive bullfrog and snake species have caused $16 billion of damage worldwide. Scientists have been collecting data to see how much economical damage invasive species and animals do, and they found that these two animals, the American bullfrog and the brown tree snake, have collectively caused $16.3 billion in damage. The tree snake slithers over electrical wires and causes massive power cuts, as well as destroys huge crops and farm fields. And the bullfrog is known to eat almost anything, as well as its own kind. They can grow up to 30 centimeters and they can be very heavy, so officials have been forced to build really expensive fog fences. These two species have spread uncontrollably all over the Pacific Islands. Russia cut gas supplies to Germany and other Central European countries. Now the European gas prices are 2% higher and 450% higher than this time last year. Russia is trying to show that it is an energy superpower, and this is the way that they are fighting against the sanctions put by different countries in Europe. Germany is now trying to get alternative gas supplies from different countries like Netherlands and Norway, and is also buying floating terminals to import liquefied natural gas from Qatar and the US. Hi everybody, this week in the Pure Career segment, we are interviewing Mr. Abhishek Talwar, an amazing person who writes books on Biplop the bumblebee, and he teaches ways to save nature and protect it through his books. He has an amazing journey and story to tell, and I really hope you enjoy. So, could you please start by telling us about yourself?
That's usually one of the toughest questions because there's so much that all of us are a sum of that it's really a difficult one to always answer. But then I would, if I were to take a step back and think about it, I'd say that I'm the sum total of all my aspirations and my fears, and like most other people, a work in progress, which is probably not the answer that you're looking for, but it is as close to the truth as you'll get.
Wow, thank you. And can you tell me what you do in your job?
So I, along with my wife Ritika, we run a startup, which is a company that creates content primarily for children. And we focus, every piece of content that we put out there focuses on one very important aspect, and that is what are we teaching our kids through the medium of these stories that we're putting out. And it's a company called Biplop World Private Limited. So I'm also a certified environmentalist, and I'm the guy who writes all the stories, and she's the business person who gets them published and ensures and makes sure that the stories reach the right people. To be more specific, I've created a character called Biplop the Bumblebee. In fact, I have a picture of him right here. Yeah, so that's Biplop the Bumblebee. And he's the world's first ever eco-warrior superhero. By that I mean that he, through the medium of these stories, conveys to kids who are maybe 5 to 9 years old different concepts around climate change, global warming, and what we can do to make the world a better place, how we can protect nature. So that's what we do in a nutshell. Besides these storybooks, we're also now coming out with a whole load of other merchandise that wants, through which we want to bring Biplop's message closer to our target audience.
Wow. Wow, it's really interesting. And how did you create Biplop? And were you always into writing, or was it something that you started recently?
Well, I guess I wrote as much as anyone else did, which is you write whenever you have to write, otherwise you don't. But I've always been a voracious reader, and so my children, Nitya, are a little younger than you. But when they were much younger, they had come up with a whole bunch of questions pertaining to everything under the sun. So Ritika and I, we've been taking road trips since pretty much the very first year that we got married. And each of these trips would entail a travel of about 3,000 to 5,000 kilometers, where we'd head out either towards the mountains or the jungles. And we'd spend a lot of our time trekking and walking through the wilderness while we were there. Essentially being in nature and communing with nature. And once our kids were part of us, then obviously they've started accompanying us for these trips. And that has been a trigger in terms of getting them to understand the importance of spending time in nature. That's one. Secondly, obviously, while we were on these trips, there have a whole lot of questions on what is that windmill? How is it creating electricity? Why does it exist? Why is this tree like this? And so on and so forth. And I realized it's a bit of a challenge to try and explain things to them in a format that they'll understand. So I started making up stories, and one thing led to another, and Biplop the Bumblebee became like a constant feature in every story, where Biplop, through a problem which he would have to resolve, would explain these concepts to them. And,
wow.
And that's when we realized, or more like Ritika realized, that these stories have a lot of potential in terms of becoming a more viable business, which is when she got me to actually pen them down. So I had to remember all the stories I made up and pen them down, and she shot them off to Penguin Random House. Penguin is one of the largest publishers in the world. And to my utter surprise, Penguin agreed to publish these stories, and
Mhm.
that's how the first book was born. And since then, we've now got 6 books which are already published, another 14 in the pipeline. So a whole lot of stuff
Wow.
happening.
Wow, that's really exciting. It's cool that you did a lot of road trips and you traveled and were in nature a lot. So that's cool. And what do you enjoy the most about what you do?
I enjoy everything about what I do. It's very
Mhm.
hard for me to put a finger and say, I like this part of it, but I don't like this part of it. Because um, the whole process of how a story comes together and the message that it brings across uh, is extremely satisfying. It's very fulfilling. Obviously, it's also very painful at points because you sometimes get stuck and you don't know how to proceed from here. But that's all
Mhm.
part of the group. So I wouldn't say there's any part of it that I don't like, or there's any part that I like more. I can just say there's one part which I really dislike, and that is the waiting. So a lot of these stories are illustrated. In fact, all of the stories are illustrated,
Yeah.
and it's easier to write them, faster to write them, but the illustrations take a long time. Um,
Uh,
so what I dislike, and I'm sorry for turning your question upside down, but what I dislike
mhm.
about what I do is waiting for the illustrations to get done because I can't draw to save my life. So we have Sonal, who's the illustrator who works on it,
Mhm.
and it takes a lot of time for her to put things together because that's the nature of the job.
I
She's got
see.
to be very careful with everything that she's doing.
Mhm. Wow. And what is your advice to kids?
Hmm. I'm not very good at giving advice, except when I'm asked for it, and still I'm not very good. But well, if I were to look at kids, let's say your age or your sister's age, which I'm assuming would be the audience that you're catering to and would be listening into this particular podcast of yours, um, I would say, never be scared of failing because, like I love saying to my own kids, you've never failed till you've given. So keep on trying new things. It's never too late to try something new. And don't ever not try something new because you're scared of failing.
Wow.
That's all I like to say to them. And
Wow.
my
No, thank you
favorite,
so much.
sorry, one last thing. And my favorite line, to everyone, look, my generation and people before us, we made a mess of the world. There's no two ways about it. I think it's way too late for us to even apologize for what we've done to the world. And the only hope is that you kids appreciate and cherish what we have so much that you're able to reverse the harm that we've done. I'm now referring primarily to the problems that we're facing because of climate change. And it's not going to be solved in my generation or in my lifetime. But at least we've made a start. And you guys have to take this ahead. That's one thought that I'd like to leave all of you all with.
Yeah, it's a big problem. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for everything that you said and for your time. It was really amazing getting to know you, your journey, your books. They're really interesting, and I'm really glad I got to interview you.
It's just all mine, Nitya. It's always nice to be on what is probably going to be one of the bigger channels on YouTube. So thank you so much for having me over, and I wish both of you the very best for your channel and everything else that you set up. Take
Thank you
care, all
so
the
much.
best.
Take care. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.
Le Vanuatu est un pays de l'océan Pacifique Sud. Sa capitale est Port Vila et sa population est de 300 000 habitants. Le Vanuatu est le pays qui a inventé le saut à l'élastique. C'est l'un des pays les moins visités du monde. Le cannibalisme était pratiqué là-bas jusqu'à très récemment. Merci. Hi everybody, this week for the extra fun segment, I'm going to be telling you some really fun facts about coffee. I really hope you enjoy. Did you know the country that consumes the most coffee is Netherlands? Did you also know that coffee beans aren't actually beans? The world's largest cup of coffee was over 20,000 liters. People have tried to ban coffee before because it's really addictive, but it hasn't really worked. Coffee is one of the most consumed drinks in the world. Do you know who discovered coffee? Coffee was discovered by a goat herder. Coffee actually helps you live longer. I really hope you enjoyed these fun facts about coffee. Hi everybody, this week for the Mandarin segment, you're going to be learning some wild animals in Chinese. I really hope you enjoy. We learned about pets in Chinese, but now we're going to be learning a few wild animals. Lion is shi. Shi. It should not be confused with shi, which means 10. Tiger is hu. Hu. We learned this when we were learning the Chinese zodiac animals. This year is actually the year of the tiger. Hu. Cheetah is liebao. It actually sounds like leopard in English, but it's cheetah. Liebao. Leopard is baozi. Baozi. Elephant is xiang. Xiang. And zebra is banma. Ma is horse, and since a zebra is a type of horse, it's banma. I really hope you enjoyed these wild animals in Chinese. 再见!